It was a Tuesday, which meant one thing and one thing alone. I was drunk and I was sitting on a bench. My favorite bench. I claimed it. I had a home, or at least I used to, before that bitch of an ex-wife Charlotte took it from me. By the way, those are my kids too, Charlotte, and they will have a father. Anyway, it was a Tuesday and I received the most disturbing phone call I'd ever heard. It was Janie Bear, one of those girls I saw on the side, a Khajiit girl, a nice girl. Not proud of it, but I saw her. Anyway, she was calling to tell me that my friend Manny had died. Mantikora Jones and I had gone to college together at the University of Winterhold. It was some years ago, but we stayed in touch. She told me that his body had been found surrounded by women of the night, and I was not happy to discover they were not the Morag Tong, but were rather skooma-using hookers. Frankly, those were the best kind, but Manny had changed. You see, I wasn't expecting this sort of thing from Manny, and though things had changed after he'd gone off to the war and I'd taken up drinking and detective work, I had to do something, and I had to do it now. I had to find out what had happened to my good friend. I headed to the city with as much haste as I possibly could. I didn't have charge, but I didn't need it because I had a car. Charlotte hadn't managed to take that from me, at least not yet, although she was certainly trying without a lawyer of hers. Anyway, I headed towards the city, and I decided that the first place I should probably go was none other than the Tribunal Temple itself. I knew Manny hung out there. See, after the war, he'd had a few demons in his head on loose, and he needed some time to figure it out, and the good fellows of the church had put him right. At least, that's what I thought. Although now, with Manny being murdered and all, I figured they might know something, so that was the first place I headed. The Tribunal Temple was known for a lot of things, but I knew that underneath it all it was a secret front for none other than Sleeps with Fishes, the Argonian mob boss of this part of town. Sure, the clerics did good work, I can't deny that, but the minute I got there I smelled something fishy, and it certainly wasn't the girls. I headed right to the door and I demanded to speak with the padre in charge. Unfortunately, the doors were locked because it was the middle of the night. Naturally, I was a bit deterred, but I had an idea. There was a girl that used to work at the church and now worked on the side. A special kind of girl. She had some special skills, you might say, and we were sort of familiar-like, you know what I'm saying? So, I headed to her. If anybody knew anything, it'd be her. I figured she was plugged into the girls that had been with Manny when he died, and she was plugged into the Tribunal Temple as well, so there was no better connection to make than her. The weirdest part about all this so far had been that I had been on a case similar to this not too long ago. See, a couple of these girls, including the one that I'm going to talk to right now, they had turned me on to a mysterious man that they said was shaking them down, beating them up and taking their money. I didn't know much about him. They'd given me a few hints here and there. He had green skin, horns, and 6 legs, but I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together until I talked to the stony broad. At first, she clammed up like a mud crab merchant when you got no credit and you have a serious drinking problem, and that's what I knew from experience. But eventually, we decided to reach an arrangement. See, if I gave her 20, it wasn't going to be good enough, but if I gave her a cool 100, a cool 100 grand, in fact, she was willing to talk. She said the man I was looking for, the man who was associated with what was going on to her before, and the man who had killed my friend Manny. His name was nix-ox. He was a bit of a lowlife. He had a problem with women, and he had a problem with drugs and alcohol. I was going to head to this place she told me about, where he stashed some of his stuff. She said that once I found it, I'd know exactly what I needed to know to be able to solve the case of my dead friend. Sure enough, when I got there, I found something after not long. It didn't make any sense to me, though. It was a mentor's ring. I had heard about these rings. Certain low-life criminals from the Assassin's Guild carry them around with them and use them for all sorts of nefarious-type shenanigans. But it didn't make any sense. Why would this nix-ox have one of these rings? What was I supposed to do with this? Nothing made any sense at all to me. In fact, I was less clear now than I was when Manny first died. I figured it was just a deal with a hooker gone wrong. A prostitute that had a beef with, Manny's mode of operation, let's say. But the more I thought about it, the more angry I got that my friend was dead, and the more confused I got. I had no choice. I had to go home and get a drink. The ride home was not as eventful as the past ride, so I'm not going to include it in this footage, but when I got there, I stared at myself for a good long while trying to figure it out. My friend was dead. My wife was leaving me, my kids had abandoned me, and I had a drug problem. That's when it struck me. This ring, this mentor's ring, it was mine. I had killed Mantikora Jones, my best friend, because he was nailing my wife, and I was nix-ox.